All right, here we go. All right, we have one viewer. Look at them. They must really want to talk to you, Kevin.
Yeah, man.
Look at this is awesome right off the bat. So welcome episode 37, Pours with Patriots. We have a stand-in guest came out of nowhere to help us out. We had somebody bail on us or couldn't make it, so Kevin decided to join us. So another Ohio guy. Thank you, Kevin. We have Sergeant Kevin Wild.
Yes,
sir. V-Lid. We were going to go all kinds of different names for it. So hopefully I don't have to say his last name again. But thanks for coming on, Kevin.
Yeah,
Kevin
man,
is a local Ohio guy, Army guy. We don't have the Army flag up today, Kevin, for you. We just got a new Pours with Patriots flag, so we're kind of flying that for the first time.
So it looks good. There's an Army man on it. So
that's true. Yeah, it does have a great Army man. That's true. Yeah. Nobody calls that a Marine man or Navy man.
No, I've never heard it. It's always been Army man. Even from Toy Story.
Yeah, you see that, Joe? Yeah, see that? That's a knock at one of the Marines that's in the audience, everybody, but that's great. But thanks for joining us for episode 37. Thanks for coming on again on short notice. Glad to have you on, and glad to have another Ohio guy, another Ohio Army National Guard guy, or former. So looking forward to get that story. So we'll start off with we always start off the quote to start the show. We'll start with the first quote. Upon my honor, I swear that I shall hold in sacred trust the rights and privileges conferred upon me as a certified aircraft mechanic, knowing full well that the safety and lives of others are dependent upon my skill and judgment. I shall never knowingly subject others to risk which I would not be willing to assume for myself or those dear to me. That's from Jerry Lederer. We'll save the auto mechanic one for later. You already saw that before, so we start off with that. So if you're guessing, Kevin was a former aircraft mechanic.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of lead it into there. So. But like I said, Kevin's an Ohio guy. Mm-hmm. Grew up close to here.
I did.
Born and raised. Gahanna, Ohio. So pretty close.
Yeah, not too far. And then kind of grew up to another guy that's in the audience somewhere. All my life was in Gahanna. Now I live not too far in Westerville.
So did you go to school? Did you go to high school with Nate?
Yeah, so him and my brother were in the same grade, and then his brother and my sister were in the same grade. So I was right in the middle.
So we have some good stories after we drink a little bit.
Find out about
I'll find story Nate's.
I'll remember some.
Or if not, one of your siblings can tell us. So we can get
my
some
brother
good stuff on him.
Comment or something.
We know a lot of Levy stories, but he's a pretty open guy. So, but you said grew up in Gahanna, graduated in 2010, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Didn't initially go into the military. Started out with college, right?
I did. Yeah, I did like that first fall semester, and then I enlisted that December. So December of 2010, I enlisted.
So what was the plan with college originally?
Initially, I wanted to go into law enforcement. So I also had like a very big infatuation with the military. And then, I found out about the National Guard and I know they say recruiters lie and everything, but at least this party was telling the truth where I could also go to school and then, play Army once a month and then 2 weeks out of the year. So to me, it sounded, like a win-win. Right. Initially went for law enforcement, and that first fall semester, I did terrible. I like that mindset coming straight out of high school. And now having the freedom and like the choice, like, hey, I don't have to go to class today and just sleep in, if it was snowing outside or whatever. Thank God I enlisted, because it actually gave me some purpose and drive to actually, not be a shitbag in class or whatever.
So you talk. One of the fun things Kevin asks is if we can swear on the show, and I'm like, absolutely, it's not a problem. But he threw out the shitbag right off the bat. I love it. Within the first 5 minutes. It's awesome. So you did mention that you had an infatuation with the military. Anybody in your family in the military that helped you with that, or just?
Kind of. I mean, my grandfather on my dad's side was in, and then I had a cousin who we're kind of close in age, but not super close, and she was in the Army as well. But it just kind of started. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was always obsessed with, like playing war, and then playing war turned into airsoft, and then finding all these war movies and TV shows and stuff. So it just kind of grew from that. And then I think a real big turning point also is my best friend enlisted in the Marine Corps like right after high school. and him and I were super close. And I think he also kind of played a factor in it, where it was like, I don't want him to, I guess, like one up me or, so.
The challenge of he went in the Marines, I'll go in the Army.
Granted, he did have the harder boot camp and everything. I will give him that, but
don't give him that. We got to keep the Marines down, man. Come on, Kevin.
Yeah,
that's our whole plan. But no, so you went to community. You went to Columbus State here.
Yeah,
Columbus. You decide to enlist.
Mm-hmm.
Head off and to start your Army career in 2011, right?
Yep.
And like we mentioned, you listed as a avionics mechanic.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
and then avionics.
Okay.
Yep. And then, well, I mean, we'll get into it, I guess, if we talk about AIT and stuff.
No,
but,
yeah. I mean, we can talk about whatever we want. That's the whole idea.
I didn't at the time. I didn't know, what avionics was, and I can't stand doing anything electrical. So it was a big shock when I got to AIT and they're talking about ohms, resistance, and multimeters and shit. And I was like, I don't know any of this, dude.
I'm fucked. That's
pretty much. That's what it boiled down to, dude. Was I'm fucked.
And it's such a great story of many military people that you hear. They like, hey, this sounds like a good MOS, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. But yeah, I don't even still know how to use a multimeter. I had something around the house happen today. I pretend I have one.
Mm-hmm.
I act like I know what I'm doing, and every time something electrical happens, I get it out and I get on YouTube and do whatever. I'm still like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing with this thing. It never works.
YouTube is a godsend, man.
Yeah, but I still can't get it right. I think I have a cheap multimeter. I think my dad gave it to me. It's one of those like Harbor Freight things. I think maybe it's a joke that it never has worked the whole time. I actually have been using it correctly, but he got me a faulty one. But so no, it's exciting. I mean, so in all seriousness, so you head to AIT, you kind of realize, holy cow, this isn't what I thought. I mean, what was your mindset at that point?
When I got to AIT?
When you found out that you're going to be doing something you maybe weren't going to be really loving.
Initially, it was the comment you made where like, all right, I'm fucked. Because, you have to test out and everything. But it also just kind of like grew into something where I knew I needed to overcome it and get it done and like learn as much as I could. So I also just kind of treated it like that, like a challenge where, all right, I don't know any of this shit, but it's gonna come in handy and I need to like learn this for the next 6 years of my life, but yeah, it was definitely a fucking eye opener and pretty scary to be honest. I mean, I was a kid, 19 years old and like, oh shit,
like,
man.
What did I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you knew that you were going to work on aircraft though, right?
I did. Yeah. That part I did know.
Okay.
I did know.
I mean, I'm trying to help you out here. Like, so you knew.
Yes, I did know there was going to be
yeah.
Blackhawks involved.
Okay.
Yeah. So that part, yeah, I did know.
I mean, you got to work in the Blackhawk. Blackhawk's pretty kick-ass, iconic aircraft, right?
They are. They are super cool. They can be a pain in the ass, especially when you're doing certain things, and especially like temperature relating. Some of the shit can be pretty grueling. Or
in the electronics part, I'm kidding.
Like with the electronics part?
No, I mean just like the whole electronic. I feel like it's got to be all. The majority of the aircraft is like half of it's got to be electronic stuff, right?
Majority of it, yeah. There's a lot of. I mean, you have stuff like in the nose. A lot of the stuff is. I mean, you have stuff underneath the seats. You have stuff going back into we called it the hellhole, where you crawl back into like the tail section. You have components back there. So yeah, I mean that it's everywhere. And luckily I got out right when I got out. I think our unit was acquiring like everything was going from analog to digital and like touchscreen. So I got out right before I think all those came to our unit.
To like thank God. No.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
I'm joking. So so like most people, we try to. Some people are in the military, Kevin, some aren't. So National Guard mean you finish AIT, your basic AIT, you come back home. So you come back, you get assigned to Rickenbacker to the 1st Battalion, 137th Aviation Brigade, Aviation Regiment. So it's Army, Ohio Army National Guard.
Yep.
Right. So you come back right away. You're working on Blackhawks, like you talked about, right? Or a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So you have like your drill weekend. So we report Friday night. I think we had to be there at like 6. Then you don't get released till usually it was like 9:30. We get released. Then you do like all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and just depending on schedule or whatever, you would either do like general maintenance. So the times, we would work on aircraft, or if you had to do, like all the bullshit PowerPoints, or when we'd actually have to play Army, quote unquote, and go to the range or do other things. So the majority of the time, yes, we would work on the aircraft. But there was also times, no, we would be doing other stuff.
So as a mechanic, you come back, you're assigned to the maintenance company, I assume, then, right? Right off the bat?
Right off the bat.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm learning about that from other people that, there's a flight company and then the mechanic or the maintenance company. So you had to do that. And I think it's kind of crazy, like you talk about. Here's a 19-year-old kid. You come back from basic IT. You're working on some pretty important, aircraft and pretty expensive aircraft, and you really don't have a lot of experience off the bat, right? I mean, It's got to be a little bit overwhelming for anybody, right?
It is definitely, but you also, I mean, or at least in my case, I always had people that were there to like guide you, and for a lot of the time, they would just kind of be like, "Hey, man, like hop in the aircraft with me, and I'll show you, what we're doing." Especially if it was something on the computer, we had to follow, like different prompts and procedures or whatever. So thank God for that. Also, that I had a lot of cool guys that guided me under their wing and showed me the way and stuff, or else, it would be super overwhelming.
So back to when you picking your MOS, did you pick that MOS? What was your driving force behind picking a maintenance MOS compared to, like, I know there's a field artillery unit in Ohio. What was your...
Well, that was one I know my recruiter brought up also, because going into it, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. So he brought up the field artillery one, that MOS. And then I forget how we got on the topic of aviation. And I think I might have talked to my cousin about it, but I just remember somebody saying like it's great to get into because, those skills can also translate to the civilian world. And it's going to be like a super relaxed environment opposed to like being in an infantry battalion or whatever.
Right.
So I think that's what my deciding factor for it was.
I mean, it makes sense. I just asked because it's unlike a lot of when you go active duty, you have a bigger window of what you can do. When you talk about the Army National Guard, you're kind of dependent on what's in your state if you want to stay local in your state. So it is kind of a limited thing. So did you have any maintenance background before this?
No, I had zero. Yeah. So
you weren't like the kid who was like 14 and was rebuilding cars.
I mean, I would like the most I would ever do is tune up a skateboard, like put new wheels and trucks on it or whatever. But yeah, that was the most maintenance I ever had really as a kid or a teenager. I mean,
I was like kind of expecting one of the questions. I was expecting to be like, I was always mechanically inclined, and my grandfather and I used to work on cars, and I just you're like, no, I was skateboarding, and
I mean, Legos, like, super into Legos too. So maybe that transferred,
I mean, you talked about you're still into Legos now, right?
I am. Yeah.
I mean, I can't lie. I mean, thank God my kids are past the Lego days because some of those Lego things are super. I mean, I feel like you do have to have an engineering degree to put them together. I mean,
oh yeah, they're either super extensive or super expensive. Sometimes both.
Yeah, and then it's crazy the price on some of those now. It's nuts. I mean, I was always painful to watch my youngest son's 18. He likes them, so I think he got one like last year for Christmas, and it's like the Baby Yoda from And I'm just like, and I'm like, how much does that cost? And I was like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, and you just watch. It is pretty intensive. I feel like it's taking out. I mean, how are you a kid though, who's like 10 and putting that together? I don't see how that's working unless.
Some of them are pretty straightforward, but yeah, like the super big sets like that, I don't know how a child can do it.
I think it's more like it's a parent does it, right? It's like one of those things like the parent sits down and does it.
Yeah.
The parent protects. That's how I was. I put this together, right?
Right.
You weren't allowed to touch it. You put it where they can't. So it's like, and I yelled at the kids half the time we were doing it. So I mean, maybe that's why my kids aren't into Lego anymore.
It could be, yeah.
So do you buy them still?
Yeah.
What's the last Lego you bought?
Last set I bought. So did you ever watch the show Mandalorian?
Yeah.
His like new starfighter ship he got, like the real sleek, fast one. So it's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I also don't like opening some of them. I'm super weird like that, and just keep them like in the packaging, like displayed on shelves and shit. So I try to turn my office into like it looks like a comic book store almost, you know. So
how's the new wife liking that?
She digs it, man. She never complains about them.
At least you have your own little area, right? You can do that.
Yes, thank God. I was like, just let me have this one space, and you can have the rest of the apartment. And so I just get to decorate it how I want, and then she gets the whole rest of the house.
So I can kind of relate with the Legos. I'm the same thing with whiskey. We have some open, some not.
Right.
We have it all over the place. You just look at it.
It's just nice to collect, man. It's also cool to, you know, like look at your collection sometimes. You're like, oh shit.
Well, I mean, I think it is a. I mean, I'm not making fun about the Legos.
No,
I
know.
I know that. It's the same thing about it. It's like there is something to collect. It is fun to do that. You can enjoy it when you want to enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, some of those I wouldn't want to take them apart because number one, you don't. Once you put them together, then they become like a liability because now you're worried about it falling and then like.
That's why I always keep the instruction book just in case. Yeah, don't throw anything out.
That is nuts. That's a good hobby to have. I mean, that's a good thing when you have kids. How do you think that's gonna work when you have kids though? Is it gonna be like something you?
I'd like to transfer. You know, like
you're gonna like Legos,
yeah. Beat it in their head, like.
But not these Legos. Like you can't touch any of these Legos.
Those are Dad's Legos. You can have these ones down here.
That's not gonna work for you for long. That doesn't work with whiskey either because whiskey is good. I mean, the beer, I can't no control over beer anymore. Whiskey, it's still my whiskey. None of them like it. That's because none of them like it. So it is what. It is
a hard taste to kind of get used to.
I was always drinking whiskey though. I feel like.
Were you?
I feel like I started. I don't know. I feel like I was drinking whiskey in high school, not like the whiskey I'm drinking now, but
like Jack
Old
and
Crow and Jack and stuff like that. It's just now. I mean, the kids today are soft. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, they're drinking fucking seltzers and like that's one thing I can't understand.
Oh, dude.
My kids talking about seltzers. I'm like, I've not drank a seltzer that I like.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I do enjoy the seltzers, man. They're good. God, I can't. They're good. They're like refreshing, and after a few beers, you know, I feel kind of full and shit. But then I just keep going.
See, I'm just like the whiskey though. You just put whiskey with some soda, ice. Just drink whiskey. I have yet to find a seltzer that I'm like.
I'm not like head over heels for them, but
I did this funny with people. The word is always refreshing. It's like, I feel like I can drink 13 of these or whatever. It's like, okay, but it tastes like shit. I mean, like, I just
some of them do, yes.
But I don't like sparkling water too. So that probably is a like I couldn't drink like just non-alcoholic seltzer. It's like the worst thing to me in the world. But, But okay, so you're back. One of the things you talked about, you said your bio was awesome because you were completely open in the bio. I either get like really extensive bios like you did, or I just get like like from Joe, like 3 words written in crayon about it. But it was very extensive. One of the things that right at the bat you talked about was your family. So your family really close to your mom. You said and your younger brother.
Yep, super close to everybody in my family. But definitely like nothing against my sister or my dad, but my mom, my brother. I'd probably say I was the closest with, especially my brother. I don't know if he'll see it. I mean, I'm sure like in the later years he saw it. I mean, when he was young and I was kind of older, I would beat the crap out of him or do stupid shit to piss him off. But we were always hanging out and hanging around, and we had, every similar hobby, whether it be like video games, skateboarding. And then, man, my mom, she's still like my best friend. She's been there for anything I ever needed. And she's a really good woman. Same with my, again, I don't want to say anything.
Your dad, you're really good. You're a really good man too, Dad. No, I'm not. The reason I asked that question right up, and we'll talk about. You said you've gotten older, your relationship's gotten better with them, but your mom, you're super close to your mom. What was your mom's thoughts when you decided to join the military?
They were. I remember them being like all for it. I don't think I'm sure she was afraid or scared, but if she didn't really, she hit it well if she was. But, anytime I had to go anywhere, it was super sad to say goodbye, especially for like, boot camp AIT and deployment and shit. But I also think they were proud, they were happy I was actually doing something. Cause like I said, that first semester of college was a fucking shit show. And I almost needed something like the military to get me like back on track and have like a good stepping stone into actually becoming a man and trying to find a career path I wanted to follow.
Yeah, I mean, what's refreshing is how much you share that. I mean, a lot of people will come up with all these, excuses why it didn't work out, and a lot of it just comes down to, personal accountability.
Right.
That's the number one thing I think you always hear about. But so it is super refreshing to hear you, own it.
Oh, dude, I mean, it's nobody else's fault,
I mean, but a lot of people don't say that anymore. They just say, "Hey, it didn't work out. I didn't like where I was going," or da 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 da. When really, it's like you're the one who didn't get up. You're the one who didn't study. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It just given that much freedom. And knowing the kind of guy I was, I mean, I would fake sick from high school, middle school all the time. And then now being in a place where I could just do it at will, like, oh, this is awesome. And then
I've been waiting my whole life for this.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you come back, you're doing that, you're doing the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. What were you doing on the civilian side? You said you went back to school initially, right?
I did. So from like 2012, God, till like the summer of 2014, I'm gonna sound like a piece of shit, and this is kind of what started all the anxiety and shit. But I didn't have any payments, I didn't have any bills. I was still living with my parents, so I told them I was going to school, but I was just staying at home. And that was for like 2 years, man. And it was, I just kept that lie going and spinning that lie. And then finally in 2014, I was like, all right, you need to stop being a piece of crap. And I enrolled back into Columbus State, and did like super well that semester. And then some things happened and the mental health shit started. And then the fall semester just kind of fell apart. And then we deployed in 15. But yeah, those first 2 years, that was, I don't know, like people always look back and reflect on their lives and like, man, that was such a shitty moment. And I think that's what makes me feel the worst in the world, was those 2 years span of not doing anything and lying to freaking everybody about, oh, I'm doing this or doing that.
So when did you ever come clean with your parents? I mean, I'm assuming you have.
I did,
I'm assuming
yeah.
they're not.
Yeah, no.
Now.
Everybody,
Mom, sorry. I mean,
yeah.
But I'm
no, they know the story.
Yeah.
And
no, talk about that. I mean, what did when did you decide to come clean, and what was the reaction to it?
So when I say it started the anxiety, I'd read some things, online, about people saying like, oh, they go to school and they don't. But in my mind, I was like, okay, it's the perfect lie, because I can say that, the military is paying for it. I'm not getting any money from the military or anybody, but then also my parents don't have to worry about buying anything. So I could sit comfortably or whatever. And then I got like super paranoid thinking that they were going to like claim something or do something. And then we got one of those stupid ass like scam calls from the IRS, saying like, hey, if you don't pay $4,500, we're going to send the police to your house and all this shit. Well, I had talked to that guy and I had never received a scam call like that before. So I immediately started wigging out, thinking it was related to, not going to school. My parent, I thought they were going to get in trouble.
All right.
So then I came clean with them about it all. And then, but that feeling never went away really. And then it just kind of spiraled out from there.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I mean, about the spiral, I guess. But 2015, you kind of get what a lot of people in the military are looking for. You finally get to deploy to your job. You head over to Kuwait.
Mm-hmm.
Were you with Jason? I think it was, what year was that again?
So 2015, he would have been in the flight, so Bravo company.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I don't know. It wasn't then. It was probably later. There was another deployment.
There was one
been,
not too far after that one.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm talking about. That went on. But so you go over to Kuwait. So obviously you were doing your job finally, working on aircraft. Yep. What was that like to finally get to do your job?
It was grueling. It was very challenging, but it was also very rewarding. I hated the deployment, but I also loved it at the same time.
What'd you hate about it?
Just being away from home, the heat. You get a shower and then you're walking back to your room and you're dirty as shit again after walking 100 feet or 200 feet or whatever.
That is true. That's one of the.
Yeah. It was very sandy and dirty. But other than that, I mean, you just fell into a routine, and you're just doing your job every day, and you get to see your boys every day, and so it just felt normal for however long we were there. So I think we left Easter Sunday, and then, like I said, came home right before Christmas.
So what did you like? So what was your favorite part about the deployment, other than just doing your job, being with the guys?
I would say definitely being with all those guys. I mean, I made a lot more friends. Like I had quite a few friends in that unit, but we all always stayed in like our own little clique. Like the avionics guys always just kind of chill together. And then when we did like pre-mobilization at Fort Hood, that's when I started really making friends with a lot of these guys. So it was really cool just to have a lot more friends. And when we were playing euchre all the time, I learned how to finally play euchre. That was good.
We can't play euchre. My dad cheats at it, so we stopped playing. Yeah, euchre's like an Ohio thing, though. I feel like
I think it is.
It's definitely like a Midwest card game. And what I've learned is like everybody has different rules. There's like basic, like you go online and there's like euchre rules, and then there's the house rules. It's like it's crazy though. So, but we don't play cards in my house, so we're like it turns into usually almost like a fist fight because someone's cheating or things like that. We can't play like phase 10 or
play Uno.
Yeah, we can't play Uno. Somebody would be complaining about that and be almost fighting. So we ruled out card games to keep everybody safe. Domino. I feel like dominoes was the predominant game when I was in there. No,
I've never played an actual game of dominoes.
I feel like everybody was playing dominoes in the army.
I
was in the army before, so way before you. So I don't know. Maybe that was the thing, but
thing of the past.
Yeah. I love me some dominoes though. No, but I get it. Like you finally get to do that. You're not playing army. You're actually doing army stuff. You're maintaining aircraft that are going out and flying real world missions, which has got to be fulfilling. But at the same time, you're still struggling a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I think it was also like a saving grace because I mean I had never in 2014, like leading up to it, I didn't know what the hell was going. Like I didn't know anything about mental health and anxiety and OCD and depression and all that shit. So I would just combat it in ways of like drinking. I mean I was pretty much always by myself, so seclusion, which are two things you don't ever really want to do in a state like that. So that's what I also really loved about the deployment is you're so busy that you didn't have time to worry about the bullshit or be worried or panicked about something that's not even relevant or going to happen. So I think in a lot of ways it helped me out and saved my life for, that at least that year and the following couple years after.
Yeah, and I've never heard it said that way, but that is a good point where, you talk about if you've been in that situation, like a lot of the real world, the everyday stuff is in front of you. You don't really have a lot of time or energy to focus on the what ifs or the things that aren't really like the 50-meter target from you. And that does help a lot of people because they can block it out or they can just, not think about it. But like anything, those deployments come to an end and all those problems you had before or anxiety or thoughts, they come back really fast for a lot of us, I think.
It did. It took longer than I thought, though. So, I mean, when I got back, I don't know if it's the same for like active units or whatnot, but we had pretty much like 3 months of like nothing. Like you were off for 3 months. So, like the first month, I believe, was paid, but you just came home to like, all this money because I didn't spend anything when I was over there. And like I said before, I didn't have any bills at this time or anything. So at least for those 3 months, man, it was like heaven on earth. I was just chilling. But again, I started falling back into like bad habits and drinking picked up. And I didn't from that. I want to just make something clear, I guess. But from that point after I confessed everything to my parents about all that bullshit, I didn't lie about anything, like the lying stayed in the past, but the drinking, came back up. But so yeah, it was tough. I was trying to think where I was going to go with that. I think in 2018 or 17, I think it was 18. I had lost like a few really close people. I lost this dude I deployed with. And then 2 days later, I got a phone call. One of my best friends, Matt, passed away. And then not long after that, my grandma passed away. So it was just kind of like boom, boom, boom. And that made the drinking spiral out of control more. And I was with my wife at this time in 2018, but I also kept a lot of shit still secluded. Like in the past, I didn't know how to work on myself at this point. So I was still trying to deal with everything the way I knew how to deal with it, which was drinking and seclusion. And then it just finally hit a boiling point, man. And I just cracked. And thank God for my brother, my best friend, John, my parents, my wife. They're all like super supportive and helpful. And I finally found the guidance and the steps I needed to take to actually combat what was happening to me. Because I didn't know what any of that shit was. It was points, man. I would literally be on the couch for like all day, not eat, not sleep, being like constantly shaking because I'm panicked. And it was pretty fucked for a while.
So when did that start that you can in your mind remember? Was it before the military? Is it a younger age? Or what, do you know at a time in your mind
that's everybody always asks me that. And I always try and think like, was there anything in my past that made me feel a certain kind of way like it did? And the only feeling I can ever like describe that kind of relates to it is like, you ever have a bad report card?
Never. No.
That
my parents knew about. No. Of course, I think everybody did. Yeah.
So
not everybody. But yes.
Right. So you got like a bad grade. You're going to get like talked to or grounded or whatever. But you get home before your parents and your report card's sitting on the counter, and then you're just fucking waiting and waiting. And it was like that feeling of dread or whatever. It's kind of what it felt like, but just magnified. And that's the only example I can kind of give. Other than that, my childhood and everything was great.
Yeah.
I think it was just those 2 years, man, from 2012 to 14 of literally doing nothing and being a piece of crap, just kind of finally took a toll, and shit just kind of went from there.
Well, I think it's important to talk about because, one of the things that you said in your bio is, we talked a little bit about already, is you had a close family. So you had a tight family, obviously had a really close relationship and a good relationship, or, it could have been fractured after, you told your parents that really, you've been lying to them for a couple of years. And you also talked about you had a huge friend base that you had since you were young.
Right.
And I think that's important to talk about. And I'm glad you came on to talk about it, because you can suffer from depression and mental illness and still, have a great family, all the friends you can have, everything could look great, but you can still be struggling. And I think yours is a perfect, example of that. And when I read, your bio, that's one of the things that jumped out to me, was like, this isn't a guy who, came from a bad home or a bad situation. It was like, but you still suffered, and still probably do fight with it, or you figured out how to keep it under control now.
Right. Yeah. So thank God, like now, it's not nearly what it was. Like if something were to happen, or if like a trigger happens or whatever, I know how to deal with it now. So I'm not, again, laying on the couch for freaking 12 hours a day and not being able to sleep and eat.
So before I ask you the next question, give you time to think about it now, because it is the deal with this, but we'll take a break. We'll do, because I'm going to ask a pretty heavy question here. We'll get into our first featured whiskey. Mm-hmm. How's that? Okay. It looks like yours is empty. Mine's empty. We'll do that. We'll give you a little bit of mental break, and then we'll get to the hard questions there. So the first one you brought in was, one of my favorites, Woodford Reserve. Now we've had on before, but this is one of the classic bottles here, Woodford Reserve Distiller Select. We talked about the double oaked, I think, some episodes in the past, but this one is from Woodford Reserve Distiller, which is in Versailles, Kentucky, which is also formerly known as the Old Oscar Pepper Distillery, and later the Labrat and Graham Distillery, which began distilling on that site in 1812. It's actually, I think, was designated a national landmark in 2020 because of all the history behind distilling. The Pepper family sold the property to Labrat Graham in 1878. They owned it until they sold it to Brown-Forman in 1941. Brown-Forman operated until like the late 60s, and when bourbon wasn't really doing well, they sold all the property to a local farmer, and then Brown-Forman decided to repurchase the land in 1993, and then they introduced the Woodford Reserve brand in 1996, and this was the first product that they actually introduced, was the Woodford Reserve Distiller Select, which has become the iconic, flagship bourbon for them. This one is non-age stated. It's rumored to be about 7 years old, 90.4 proof. The mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. Great sipper. We also have another one here, the wheated bourbon version, but this is one of those great sippers. A lot of people know this. I call it like the McDonald's of bourbon, because it's just is there. You know what I mean? It's like a great.
Right. Yeah.
This is way better than seltzer. Just so in case anyone's. I'm joking. This is a great. Anything's better than seltzer, but thanks for bringing this. This is a good. This is a.
That's what I should have. I should have brought a case
of
of
seltzer. Yeah, that's somebody probably.
Case of White Claw.
Oh man, could you imagine? That'd be awful. So, there's a clean one there if you want to.
Oh yeah, sure.
Get you going there.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks for bringing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Fun stuff. So we were talking about your struggle there and how you were, dealing with depression and anxiety. You talked about, you say you've got it under control now.
Yes.
You talked about drinking. You're obviously drinking now. Can you share what techniques did you learn, or what did you go through to help turn that around?
So we tried many different things. I think the biggest factor that played a role in the getting better was actually just getting off your ass and going to do something, even though you didn't want to do it. I mean, I can't count how many times I went to work, on like an hour or two of sleep, and just wanted to call off and be like, yo, I can't do this today, and still being shaky, but just getting up and going to do it, and like going to do it. Outside of that, I mean, I did seek therapy. That helped a lot. We had a good family friend that was doing this like neuro therapy that was pretty cool. He attached like these electrodes to different parts, like on your temples, and it would play like real calming, serene, like music. And then you would hear like a quick skip in the music. And what it was doing was kind of like retraining your brain to get back to focus. Like your brain was having a misfire, quote unquote. And that also really helped. But again, yeah, just going out and doing stuff and talking about it is huge. I can't stress that enough. Like, you're not any less of a person for wanting to seek help or wanting to talk about something, no matter how stupid or childish it sounds. Believe me, I don't know who's in here right now, but if any of my family or friends are watching, they'll tell you, like, I worried about some pretty stupid shit that now you can look back on and laugh like, okay, why was I worried about that? But just keeping that bottled in and like secluding yourself from everybody and trying to hide your problems, it never works. It doesn't pan out well.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the story is like we kind of jump forward to
right,
what,
yeah,
we're at. But what I think is interesting about Kevin's story, just to fill some people in, is Kevin was in the National Guard at the time, as you all know, but also had just got promoted. You got promoted to the rank of sergeant, so became a non-commissioned officer. Was dealing with all these issues, and on top of that, you have your job to do in the military, and you're a leader of soldiers.
Right.
That had to be I bring that up because that's a struggle that a lot of people don't realize. Were you this open about what was going on at work with your soldiers, with your leadership, or
no? At that time, no. Yeah. On deployment, nobody knew any of this stuff. It was really kind of only my parents that knew what was going on, and at that time, excuse me. I didn't even know what to call it. I didn't know if it was anxiety or what was happening. But yeah, I never talked about it with any of the guys I served with. Maybe like later on once we got home, but specifically at the deployment, I don't remember. Because I just felt like they had, they were also in a bunch of shit too, and I didn't want to overburden them or whatnot. So yeah, I never really talked about it with them.
You looking back, do you wish you'd changed that?
Yes and no. There's a couple guys I definitely could see, like, yeah, they would sit down and listen, and I think it would have helped. But also, no, because I also didn't want them to have another thing on their mind, especially something, they didn't really have any control of. So, I mean, I do regret it, but I don't at the same time.
Do you feel like, I mean, you're talking about the people that worked with you and under you. What about your chain of command? Did you feel like your chain of command would have been supportive here in that?
We did have one dude that I got pretty close with, and I don't think he knew the extent of everything, but he was like my leadership. And I would just kind of touch base with him and let him know what was going on, or, if something was bugging me, he was always there to kind of talk. So I guess to, go back on our previous comment, I did have him. But yeah, he was always aware of, like I said, what was going on, but I don't think he knew like how bad or how deep, I guess it was.
All right. And I think that's important. One of the things to talk about is why we started, the podcast is to tell veteran stories, and obviously to help deal with, the pandemic, or, the whatever is going on, whatever you want to call veteran suicide. But it's important, if anyone is listening, you absolutely need to talk to, it's great to have friends and family, but it is important. It needs to be one of those things that has to be, in my opinion, it has to be in the face of the military leadership. If you are suffering, I mean,
right.
you need to talk to someone. And also, if you can't talk to people in the military, you don't have friends. Obviously, we always talk about this on Boards with Patriots, is you definitely need to contact, the Veterans Crisis Hotline. And the number's on the screen right now. You can dial 988 now, or dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or text 838-255, or you can actually chat online now at veteranscrisisonline.net/chat. So, but if you're out there, you are struggling, and it is important if you're in the military still. It's what people don't understand is the reason I asked that question. It was a loaded question, right, Kevin? Because back then, I still don't think it is very open to be able to tell people in the military that you're struggling mentally,
right?
Especially unless it's something crazy, like. But if it is something stupid, like you talked about, or in your mind you think it's stupid, because it is really stupid because it was bothering you, but you just don't want to be labeled as someone that isn't
also feeling
pulling their weight.
I might be wrong here, but I also feel like some people might be afraid of getting like reprimanded, or the fear of getting chaptered out.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's this kind of bullshit that you almost have to keep it to yourself, or else you're going to face consequences that you shouldn't be facing.
Right. And no, that's a good point. I mean, if you do mention you get chaptered out, you still have a mental health issue, right? If you lie about it for another 10 years and get out on your own terms, or you retire, that mental health issue is still there. You need to address the mental health issue when you have it. That's right. That's important. And a lot, hats off for you, being able to figure that out and recognize that something was going on, and to fight that. But so that whole thing with mental health, that time frame, you said, I think it was in your bio point, 2014 to 2018, or a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah. So August of 2014 till like when we left, basically, to go to Fort Hood for pre-mobilization. So like January of 15, that whole time frame was pretty shitty. And then 18, the winter, like December, mid-December of 18 is when things were probably the worst that they ever were. And it sucks, and I felt terrible because like right before all the shit happened and I got like really bad, I had proposed. So I didn't want my fiance to think like, Jesus Christ, this dude just proposed and now he's having freaking panic attacks, I always just felt terrible thinking like, oh, maybe she's thinking it's her or whatnot. And at that time, I was never open with her or let her know that, hey, these things have happened in the past. So I know it hit her like a freaking freight truck, but she was always super supportive and always there. And she was a freaking rock star,
So a question to ask, you don't have to answer. During that time frame, did you ever contemplate suicide?
Yes, there was one time. And the best way I can explain it is I didn't want to die, right? But I wanted to like kill the part of me that was, because I was so freaking sick of not eating and sleeping and being shaky and miserable all the time. And like looking back on now, thinking of all the hours or days of shit I missed because I was, so scared and wanted to stay home. So there was a day where it was some bullshit, like over the counter anxiety medicine. We had like a bottle of wine. And so I just kept going and kept going. And I don't think, you know, it was enough where something was going to happen, but it was enough where I started like psyching, like to myself, I was like, dude, you got to stop this shit. And so I called the like suicide prevention hotline, and we, you know, went that route. But yeah, it definitely got pretty scary for a while. Again, hats off to anybody that's in this chat, my family or friends, because they were all super supportive and there for me. And without them, I doubt I'd be here.
And thanks for sharing with that. I didn't know, again, we talked about these. This is a touchy subject because we always get a lot of criticism about this when we ask people this. Obviously, Kevin knew we talked about this before we came on air. I didn't just blindside him with this, but we do really, appreciate you being honest. I think that's the key thing of why we're doing these interviews is to be honest with, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with other people because a lot of people are really feeling the same way you feel, just in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of courage. I mean, what I thought was most, about your bio you sent me is when I read it the first time was, you and I never met until you came down here,
right?
But you were just open right off the bat about sharing who you are. And that, like I said before earlier in the podcast, that's hats off to you because a lot of people, still can't do that. I mean, and obviously, can do that with maybe with family members, but to open up to a stranger and then obviously to get on the camera here and share that, it just shows how much you care about yourself and other people. And that's what you really everyone needs to be doing. Like it's one of the things we talked about is, we need to be there for each other. And, and as veterans, we need to be resilient and stick around until we find the help we need or
yeah, for sure, man. I hope somebody hears this, and if you're dealing with something, like I said, don't ever feel like it's something stupid, because believe me, I've worried about a bunch of stupid shit that psyched me out to the point of where I was, but.
Well, you keep saying that because you keep saying the stupid shit.
Yeah, dude. Right? So you want example?
I mean, you can if you want, but I want to be clear about this. Is one of the things that we're trying to be better at. This is your story and you're telling it, and that stupid shit can't. Obviously, you're sharing a story that that stupid shit.
Right.
Whatever you're going to share with us, if you want to, it paralyzed you for many years. So my point in that is, it may be stupid shit to you, but to somebody else, but it obviously has enough impact to mess with your mental. And that's one of the things I think all veterans, anybody needs to understand is like, you have to talk about it. I mean, sometimes talking about it, maybe it doesn't, when you say it out loud, you do realize it's stupid shit, but at the time it seems pretty real. You know what I mean?
Right. All right. Yeah.
But so if you want to give an example,
I'll give an example. So, like in 2019, after I started seeing the doctors and everything, I got prescribed this one drug called Ativan, and you just take it, when you're feeling like something happening, and it's just going to like relieve your anxiety symptoms. And so I got it prescribed through like the psychiatrist doctor. And then I went and had a visit with like our physician, like our family physician or whatever, and they'll ask like, hey, are you still on medicine X and Y and whatever? And I was like, yeah, I'm still on the Ativan. And he asked if I wanted a refill. And I was like, well, it is kind of getting low. Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So I was like, all right. I didn't think anything about it. But I didn't know that you're not supposed to have like one doctor prescribe something like that and then another doctor prescribe something like that, even though I'm sure they were communicating and they, knew what I was going through. But in my mind, I was thinking I was doing this shit called, what do they call it? Like something like drug shopping. You know how assholes will go to different pharmacies with a doctor's note and get a bunch of painkillers and shit. So that immediately wigged me out, thinking I was going to get in trouble. Like my fear and stuff was always about like getting in trouble, and I was going to do something that was going to land me in a bad spot, like jail or whatever. And I always try to be the best human I can be. And so like, it would just, that's what I mean by stupid shit. Like it sounds silly, but like something like that crippled me for like a whole week, It was just because I was like, oh, great, now they're going to see this. And it would spiral out of control to the point where like I'd get over that fear, and then like some other fear would happen. And so I'd have like, a half a day break of not being anxious or worried about anything. And then I would start obsessively thinking about something else. And then, so it was just like a circle effect of
like a vicious cycle
fuckery.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So how do you deal with that now? I mean, obviously are you still you have to share this, are you still taking medication, or are you?
Yes, I got off the Ativan shit because that stuff can be addictive, and I didn't want that stuff anymore. So I'm still on something called Effexor, which is just like a 1-a-day thing. It's not like an addictive drug, like a benzo or whatever they're called. But that's also helped a lot. But it took a while to kind of get dialed in, like they would just kind of try different medicines and see what stuck, which was super strange because some of them make you feel like nauseous or you have the shits all day. And until you find the right one, it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse.
Yeah. But so you found something that works for you now?
Yeah, it's worked great. I think I've been on it for like 2 years or a little over 2 years, maybe.
And again, thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's it takes a lot of people to share that. I think that's one of the key things of helping this epidemic go away is for people to share that they are taking medication, they are getting counseling, they are still struggling. So let's talk about let's change the subject a little bit because we went deep there really fast. So let's talk about the civilian world a little bit.
Okay.
So you didn't grow up a mechanic.
I did not. No.
The Army trained you to be a mechanic, and then you're a mechanic now, right? So
correct. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I always had a fascination with cars, and growing up, especially after high school, going to like car meets and stuff, or always watching like the car shows. But I had never touched a car, like to work on it. So when I got the job at Lexus, I started out as a lot technician, which I said in the bio, you're pretty much like a salesperson's bitch. You're just kind of like rearranging the lot and, like washing cars after they get sold and stuff. And then they had a spot open up for an apprenticeship. And I was like, all right, that sounds cool. Like I think I can do this. So I applied for the apprenticeship. I got it. And then from that point on, I was with a guy for a while. And then after that, I went and became a lube tech where all you're doing is like oil changes, rotates. And then I was with another dude for a while. And after that, you're kind of on your own. So it's kind of like, all right, now you got to really figure it out.
And you've been there for a while. You started there in 2016, so you've been there now close to going on 7 years or over 7?
Over now? 7, yeah. It would have been March would be 7.
So now you're doing everything at Lexus. What's your specialty now? You do?
Yeah, so as a service technician, you just kind of do a broad spectrum of everything on a car. Anything from like diagnostic stuff to brakes, tires, all the way down to like doing timing covers or head gaskets. So
electronic stuff still?
Oh, unfortunately, yeah. Yep.
So all that came to full
fruition.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
So luckily, that stuff transferred over. But again, it was kind of like being back at AIT, starting that apprenticeship, looking at a car like in the air for the first time, being like, all right, dude, I'm fucked.
I don't know what I'm doing.
But
don't tell everybody that now because they're like, oh god, I gotta get Easton Lexus.
Right.
Like I gotta figure out who's on my receipt who worked on my car.
No, I'm good now. I'm good now. Yeah. But it's definitely. I think just with me, man, it's like distilled in me where I'm not gonna fail. Like I'm gonna get this down to the point where either I'm gonna do it very well, or I know I'm not good enough to do this and move on to something else. But with this, I think I feel like I'm doing a very, very good job here.
Well, after 7 years, you got to be. I mean, you've moved up in the dealership. You started at the bottom, worked your way up to do you aspire to like move to the like service manager role, or do you still like just working on the cars?
I still just like working on them. I don't think I'll ever want to be a manager. I mean, if the position ever came across and it was a good gig or sounded good, I'd take it. But it just looks like a pain in the ass.
Anytime you're in charge of something or a manager, that's what they don't tell you. The word manager always implies that it's going to be a pain in the ass because you have to deal with other stuff other than yourself. But so exciting thing about the dealership. So you found a profession. I'd say now you found your calling, right? For now.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you found your future wife there.
Or wife. Yeah.
Your wife. I'm sorry. Your wife. Yeah.
Yep. So we met the day of my interview. We actually met. She was walking in as I was walking in. She held the door for me and, I asked if I was here to pick up my car. And I was like, no, I'm here for an interview. And we were both attracted to each other, but I was so much of a pussy. It took me 6 months to ask her out finally. Cause I was, super shy and nervous. And, but it was great. It's still great. But it was funny because there was a point in time where she had left the dealership and went to work at Discover, which is where my mom works. And her mom is a service advisor where I work. So she was working with my mom, and I was working with her mom.
That's a good way to get a lot of people in trouble.
I know, man. It was
mainly you getting in trouble.
I know.
God, that's a bad combination. Like because I feel like so obviously she has a pretty good relationship with your mom then now.
She's super close to my family, and then I'm super close with her family. So we both got pretty fortunate, and it's just been. I mean, we don't ever fight, argue, bicker, bitch. She's just the perfect girl.
Neither do I with my wife. Not today, at least. No, but so you talk about one of the things that we talk about now. You've been doing this for a while. Your civilian job. You got out in 2016, right?
Yes, December 2016.
So one of the things you talked about, from that time frame is for a couple of years in your bio was that you kind of regretted leaving a little bit. You had thoughts of wanting to reenlist, and what do you think was the reason for that?
I think it was just the camaraderie. Like I missed a lot of the guys. There was pretty much nothing like in the military itself I missed. I don't think, like looking back on it, like I didn't really care for the work. Like the electrician work wasn't for me.
You made that pretty clear from like minute 4, I think.
Yeah, right. But no, I think it was just the guys, man. I think I really missed them, and it was around that time too when everything happened in 2018, where it was, like I felt like that loneliness and stuff again. So I just kept bouncing the idea back in my head, like back and forth, like, is it a bad idea to reenlist? Is it a good idea? And ultimately I didn't. But I definitely toyed with the idea for a little bit.
Yeah, because one of the things when I had that question, I said, was it losing your job because I didn't know you well? Obviously, that wasn't it.
No.
Losing your identity, because that's one of the things I think that military people, or that we identify as a service member, we identify as a soldier or a Marine, right, or a sailor. So when you get out, you lose that identity, and then the other part, the main part, I think, is what doesn't get talked about a lot is we lose our friends, right? Mm-hmm. We lose those guys and gals that we spent some of those intimate moments with,
right?
That we see every weekend or twice. So we bitch about going away for 2 weeks, but you get to hang out with them and bullshit and play euchre. So I mean, I asked a lot of people that question because I think I struggled with, my two things was really, were the people, and then obviously my identity. That's one thing that I always thought was like, I wanted to do that forever, and then you're like, God, will I ever get another identity? And the reason I bring that up is to service members and people listening is that you can get a new identity. You can go from being a Marine to being a manager or being a mechanic or being a dad or a husband. You can have another identity that's just as important and meaningful as being a Marine or I keep saying the Marines. Why am I giving the Marines?
I don't know, man. You're giving them a lot of credit.
Because Joe's over there crying. I think it looks like he's going to cry. I'm trying to make him feel good about it. No, but I mean, it doesn't matter. But I think that's important. And I think that I think, the one thing I still, as years go down, I still miss the friendship part of it. The people that you did all those things. So that's where most of my memories are. It's not
for
the identity of like, I don't think I care about my identities when I'm getting my 10% discount at Lowe's or Home Depot, but
no kidding.
No, I mean, I've gotten past that. I've been out for a while. I've been out since 2005, but I think that the one thing, but I say that joking, but all joking aside is those are, I think somebody had said that on other podcasts. I think it's very important. Those three things I never thought about in such a simplistic way, but that really is what all of us go through. And it's hard for a lot of people to understand that we're in the military, and it's sometimes even hard for us to understand what we're feeling, because I think those are the three things we're most scared of,
Yeah, I agree. I could see that.
But so obviously your friends, you still talk to the guys in the unit, or are you pretty much detached from them at this point, or
there's still some of them? Yeah, there's still a few of them. I'm still pretty close with. I'll talk to them almost on a day-to-day basis now, and we'll just get together, hang out, play cards, do whatever. But we started, what Discord is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in like a Discord chat together.
A Lego Discord.
I wish it was Legos.
It's an avionics Discord group.
Oh God, that sounds like purgatory.
But what's the Discord? Is it just a group where you guys chat and hang out?
Yeah, we'll play, like video games or
Yeah.
just shoot the shit, hang out. So it's been nice. And that just happened kind of recently too. We all started playing a game that like just recently came out, and somebody saw that, I was playing it, and then they invited me into this chat. And then, once I got in the chat, I saw like a list of names, like, holy shit, I haven't talked to you guys in
what's the
quite
game?
some time. Diablo.
Okay.
Diablo 4.
Look at all the guys in the background. I have no idea what it is. Yeah. I just know any gaming is what my kids are playing. We've talked about this before. It's great to see, the second guest we've had recently that's big into video games.
Really?
Yeah, we had a guy that was big into. I mean, he had a different motivation. He was in the video games, but yours seems to be more wholesome and to bring it together, and his is more of torturing children, as he put it. But yours is more into like building that group thing.
Yeah,
because that's important. We just talked about that before. It's something to bring people back. It's something to bring people together. It's
yeah.
And I don't make fun of that part. I think that's a great thing in gaming and those chats. I mean, like people ask me all the time how much I'm into bourbon, why I'm into bourbon, and it's from a lot of it came down to relationships that I've made, and
yeah, it's all the same concept.
Out,
it's all the same thing, just different ways of doing it.
Yeah, the video gaming though, it gets too serious for me. That's like
sometimes, yeah.
I like the video game where I can play by myself. I like to play.
Yeah.
What is it like? I don't like the online shit. I like playing my
single player.
Yeah, where you play like the storyline. And then my kids yell at me because I fast forward through the storyline. I just want to play the storyline. I don't want anybody bother me. I want to play video games. I want to play video games for the exact opposite reason. I don't want anybody to bother me. Whereas it's a social connection for a lot of you. So, one of the things I want to go back to the Army, back to your time in the Army. We're bouncing around, which I like this.
Yeah, I like.
One of the things you talked about is I talked about it real quick, but you didn't mention it. But you said one of the struggles that you talked about was you made E5 while a lot of your friends were still enlisted guys.
Yeah, they were still E4, E3s,
E4 Mafia, the E3.
Yep.
Talk about that, because I don't think for the people that don't understand that we're in the military, once you make E5 or sergeant, you take a leadership role. So a lot of times that happens where your friends are still your friends one day and you were hanging out with them, all of a sudden it's literally like a snap of the finger, and now you're no longer friends with them. Now you're in charge of them.
Right.
So what was that like for you? Because I feel like you didn't really. A lot of guys embrace that; they can't wait for it. But I felt like yours was a little bit different. Yours is a little different.
I was never in for, like, immediately off the bat. I told him, like, don't ever freaking stand at parade rest. You don't have to call me Sergeant Vile. You can call me, fuckface, Kevin Vile, whatever you want to call me is fine. Like, they're still my buddies. Now, like people I didn't know, sure, do all the courtesies or whatnot, but it just was an odd feeling because we all grew up in that unit together, and then one of the guys I had went all the way through boot camp, AIT, into the unit. So it was just odd, but also at the same time, I felt like I could use that rank as a platform to kind of help them out too. So I tried as best as I could not to look at like the negative side of it, especially being told like, hey, you need to like getting told from my leadership, hey, you need to make sure these guys are doing X, Y, and Z. And if they're not, then you got to do, corrective training or, all that stupid shit. But, I think I just, lack of better terms, I just kind of ignored the fact that I was an E5 and they were E4s. I just, it's like, you know what, dude, these are still my boys. And, which
I don't know if that's, we laugh about that. We're laughing about it now. That's a hard concept for people to understand. Like, right. I don't know if in the National Guard, if that's easier because you're with them growing up and the thing. But like, I saw Joe over there, his head was like about to pop off when he thought about that. Because most people, I think my dad is like, "What are you talking about?" Like, that's when you just crush them. But that is it's a growing up moment that a lot of people either embrace or they don't embrace. I'm not saying you did embrace it, but
right.
It just depends on where you're at. I just think like there's nothing wrong. I think when you become a leader that they still can be your boys, they still can be your girls, and you just you got to take care of them, but you still got to keep up with the the regulations and hold them accountable.
Correct. Yeah, like I don't get me wrong, I didn't let them be shitbags or slack off, any of that stuff. but also that unit was just super, like everybody was super cool with each other. And a lot of people were on like first name basis, regardless of, the rank. And we had warrant officers that were like the test pilots. At least, the avionics guys and the mechanics became pretty good friends with on deployment. So we would call them by their first name sometimes.
Yeah, and aviation units are known to be a little bit more
lax.
Yeah. So wash hands keeps coming up. Is that your brother?
Wash hands. No, Jeff is my dad. I don't know what wash hands means, though.
Your dad's put that up a couple times.
That's funny.
That'd be a good one to explain. Maybe he's
wash hands. No, I don't know what that is.
Maybe he can elaborate on that.
Oh, it is an emoji?
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. We're like looking at okay.
Like, what the hell is he
that
talking
makes more
about?
sense. You're like, Dad, dude, my dad's lost it finally. All dads lose it.
It's okay.
Right. Just ask my kids. I lose it too. But so back then, I mean, it is an interesting thing. So was that the question I was asking? What was that the hardest part of your military career? Was becoming an E5?
The hardest part,
or was that that just was?
It just kind of happened, man.
Your dad said, "Try that old turkey." He said, "We're getting to it, Dad. We're getting to it."
So there was kind of like two sides of the coin in the military. So when I was at AIT, for the people that don't know anything about the military, you have these things called PT tests, which they're going to test. You need to do a 2-mile run, 2 minutes of sit-ups, 2 minutes of push-ups. And there's a time in AIT where I was just like slacking off big time. I was super unmotivated. I've been in TRADOC, so boot camp in AIT, a total of like 32 weeks long for everything. And I think it was around September, October, where we all got like a 4-day pass to go home. Well, I fucking failed a PT test, and so I got red pass for the weekend and couldn't fly home. And then from that point on, I made it a thing to myself, like I'm never fucking failing one of these things again, and just smoked every PT test from there on out. And, like qualifying, I never hit expert, but I was always sharpshooter. So making E5 just kind of happened. Like it was an accumulation of always being at the right place, right time, right uniform type shit. Also like the PT score and all that stuff. So I got it super early, and I was also super young. And it kind of rubbed some people the wrong way because I wasn't that great at the avionics job, but here obviously, I am.
I mean, you went into it like, oh shit.
Yeah. But now
if I can't use that multimeter, I'm going to be able to run 2 miles really fast.
Right. Yeah. God, fuck this multimeter. I can do all these push-ups, man. But yeah, I think that kind of rubs some guys the wrong way. So I made more of it with my rank as being like an outlet for these guys, where if they need to talk about something, hey dude, we're still friends, right. Just come shoot the shit with me or whatever.
And the open leadership is always good. I think that's a good way of being like an open leader. You got to be able to listen to the people that work for you. The military, that's important. A lot of people don't do that when they become leaders. At the non-commissioned level, also right. At the officer level, you've seen that before, where it's not like all of a sudden you don't have time for that. And I don't think that's a good recipe ever.
Right.
I think there is, like I said, there's that delineation of when you're friends, but you're not. I mean, and I think a lot of it has. If you're a good leader, I think your subordinates know that as well. They know when right. they can. They know when they can cross line, when they can't. What I mean? Which is important. Your dad is like super pushing the wild turkey. I mean, he's got to finish. He's got to finish his other one, and then we'll go to the next one.
I still have another one too.
He's like, holy cow, Dad! Your dad is like jonesing for that.
He's a bourbon junkie.
Yeah, you were saying that's exciting. So you talk. Let's talk about your dad. Is he came up there. He's been posting some emojis. He's gotten big into bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about what as you gotten older. What do you think has helped with your guys' relationship? You said you've gotten close with him over time.
I have, yeah. It's not like we never had like a bad relationship, but growing up, especially like middle school, high school, we didn't really always see eye to eye, or I would never really go to him with problems. I kind of always just went to my mom. And just over time, I grew, I don't know how to word it, not confidence or faith or anything, but I just grew closer to my dad and being able to like talk to him about shit, and then just kind of having like the same interest with certain stuff and going to do things like we'll go to the Indy 500 every year, shit like that, and it just I don't want to say it was a bad relationship. It was just never. I just don't think it was as great as it is now as it was like back in middle school and high school, if that makes sense. Maybe he'll agree or not.
He's like, you were my favorite until today.
Yeah.
If you don't hurry up and drink that wild turkey, you're not going to be my favorite. Right. No, but he said he's got into whiskey lately. He moved. He's got.
Yeah, so he's part of a bourbon club. My mom's in a wine club. So, yeah.
Living the life like so. If he's listening, obviously. So Jeff, you have to post what your favorite bourbon is, and we'll make sure that he has some of it tonight. I'm pretty sure we probably have it here somewhere in the bunker.
I think he's gonna say Blanton's.
If he says Blanton's, then we're done. we have Blanton's, but we'll have Blanton's if that's what he says it is. But hopefully he doesn't say that. But we have that too. But. Blanton's gets hit on. It gets shit on so bad.
It's just a super popular name.
Well, I mean, we were talking. I think we've talked about Blanton's before, and this is like, if you're into the history of whiskey, like it's a hobby or passion, whatever you want to call it. But it is the reason why we are today. It's the first single barrel bourbon that ever came out. It does have its place in history. It definitely has gotten put up on a pedestal that I don't think it should be. It's good, but I mean, I can't lie. Everybody in this room here that's into whiskey, no one, they're not gonna. He said, "Well, antique, we've got that." So
okay,
we can take care of that. But it did serve a purpose. But a lot of us, that used to be the cool thing. I mean, it's a cool bottle. It's got the horses on it. Yeah. It's in the John Wick movies. It's in a lot of movies. So I get it. It's definitely not worth standing in line for 4 hours for.
There's no way, man.
Can get, yeah. But we're gonna hook him up with some really good Weller Antique, and also Jeff, I'll make sure that I send your son home with a sample for you of some really good Weller Antique that I'm sure you don't have. So we'll send a gift for you as well. So back to the mental health issue, because it's one of the things to talk about. So I have a question it goes back to so the drinking thing, that drinking was a problem. Yeah, right. How is it? How are you dealing with that now? Usually a lot of people you hear they have a drinking problem. The way to get rid of it is to stop drinking.
Right. For me, I did stop for about 6 months. I didn't have anything. I got on this like tea kick where I was drinking hot tea all the freaking time. But then I didn't have a game plan or anything. I was just able to do it in moderation, where it was like, okay, dude, you don't need this all the time now. I think I didn't need it to cope anymore. So I didn't need to do it all the time like I was doing. You know what I mean? Like I had other.
Like how often were you drinking before when you were struggling?
Oh, all the time. Like there'd be times I would drink, I don't know. I mean, it would be like big glasses of either rum and Coke or Jack and Coke, like all freaking night. And then I'd wake up the next morning, and if there was still like a good bit in the glass, I would just shoot the glass, what was left. And then I'd have to hit the gas station on the way home and get a twist off fucking Miller Lite or Coors Light, and then go home and like repeat the process. But it was relentless, and it is not the way to treat your problems. Like it was, I've just been very fortunate. Like, I don't know how I never got in trouble. I definitely have driven when I shouldn't have drove. It's just a scary time.
No, I mean, and again, I can't thank you enough for being honest with you. It's like, being open book. I think you're kind of like my dream person to come on here where you're being open and talking about it, because some of the same things you're saying is, that a lot of people won't do that. It takes a lot of courage to be able to say, hey, here's what I was doing. Like, not many people, like, have I driven when I shouldn't have? Absolutely. Am I fortunate enough that I didn't get in trouble? Absolutely.
Right.
But I'm the same person with my kids now. There's like zero tolerance. I'll freak out if my son has a beer and says he's leaving somewhere. In reality, I'm kind of a hypocrite because I've done it. I've done it before. And it's just really not a good place to be. But yeah, obviously, like I bring that up because of drinking. Like, I don't want to, it's one of those struggles of like do you have a podcast about talking with veterans and struggling with mental health and talk about, you're drinking whiskey or beer or whatever. But I'm the same way as you. Like there's some, I do sometimes drink it where I am self-medicating, right? I'm having a bad day.
Oh yeah,
like, or something's bothering me. Then I just, I sit in the basement here or whatever and drink. I mean, I know that's not good for me, but I also know that like you, I can say, hey, tomorrow I cannot drink.
Yeah, and you have like a cutoff point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
There was at that time I would just drink until I
mean, it's not always a cutoff point. Depends on what. Depends on. I mean,
no, I get what you're saying. I know what you mean. Yeah.
No, I mean, but no, it just goes back to like those time frame. It's again of looking at, because I think a lot of people, it's either all of it or none of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and that's not me. It's like, to me, I'm in the middle. Like, can I stop drinking? Absolutely. Would I be miserable?
Right.
I don't think I'd be miserable. I'd be miserable not in the community or the people I'm around and be able to share that. That's the thing. It's kind of a weird thing to say that, but can I stop drinking and be fine? Yes, but it's just finding that happy medium. But I think I wanted to bring it up because it's there are other people that do that. It's not the way to be dealing with your problems.
Right.
If you're drinking every night, like you were, Kevin, like then that you obviously you need to talk to somebody. I'm not being a
oh no,
I'm not you, but I'm not saying you, but anybody that's listening, that's not normal.
I mean, there was also times too, like when we first got home from deployment. I mean, my sleep schedule was so fucked that I would be up from like 1 or 2 in the afternoon is when I'd wake up, and I would just stay up until I don't know, like 7, 8, 9 in the morning. And so I go to this bar in Gahanna called Coach's. I don't know if anybody else has heard of it, but
in the background they're like, yep.
So I'd get there at like 7 or 8, right? And then I would stay until they closed at like 2:30 and literally help them fucking like put the chairs up on the tables and shit. But I'll just be drinking the entire time just because that, it's what I knew how to do. And that's how I self-medicated. But definitely do not go that route. You don't want to be at a bar putting the freaking stools up on a table, not getting paid.
That's
to
true.
Do so, It's not a good look.
I don't mind that when I'm closing the bartender, that's somebody helping me, because the guys in the back are like, we've done that before, but no, I mean,
habitually,
but I mean, I'm glad we're making some jokes about it, but I think that's the part to talk about. But it is true. I mean, there's a friend of mine was talking about the other day about drinking, and he's pretty much. He hasn't stopped drinking completely, but he'll drink occasionally. But, we asked him, why he did it. And he actually brought up a story. He's like, hey, he's a bartender, a server bartender. He's like, hey, I was sitting at the bar drinking, and I looked over to the person next to me, and like, it clicked in my head that, holy shit, this is who I'm going to be in like 20 years. And I don't want to be that. And that's important. Sometimes it does take that, sometimes it takes you talking to somebody else. It sometimes takes self-realization.
Mm-hmm.
It sometimes takes, counseling or whatever. Yeah, it's just not the best thing to do. And you're right. For all the people that are listening, especially because military, it is a culture of drinking, right? Like that's one of the things that you talk about.
It is,
like, it's like when the first break you get. I mean, we're sitting around talking. Like, what's the first thing you do? We're not going to talk about the other things, but the first thing is talking about drinking and partying. And then when you're together, if you didn't do that, it was, there's a lot of peer pressure to drink in the military.
Yeah,
unfortunately, and it's taken some people down the wrong road. Definitely. I mean, and I'm glad that you've got that under control, just like, the other anxiety issues. And again, if anybody's struggling with that, you absolutely need to you need to seek help and talk to somebody about that. And the ticker tape's going up right now. I'm not going to read the number to you, but there's definitely people to talk to you about that. If you're self-medicating, you need to talk to someone. And the first thing I always say is like, talk to friends. Like, I think you're a perfect example of it too, is like your family, right?
Right.
I feel like you've told your family some pretty amazing things, some pretty deep, deep, dark things, and they've accepted you.
Yeah, it was almost like as soon as the first thing came out of the bag, it was like, okay, it made me feel better to get that off my chest. Now what's the next thing? And then the next thing. So it was literally just spilling my guts of even stuff I did, 16 years old or something. I'd be worried about it coming back and biting me in the ass. So I'd have to get that off my chest. And it was almost like, if I don't tell them, then, something's going to happen or whatever. So it was just like guilt tripping myself almost constantly. So it's just such a burden when you get something off your chest and people actually like acknowledge it and listen and sit down and talk to you and be like, hey, everything's cool. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. And I think that's important. I mean, you come from a place where you talk about having a close family, close friends. So to a lot of people, I think they'll listen and say, "Oh, that's really easy," right?
Right.
Yeah, yes and no, maybe. But the reason I bring that up is like I think it doesn't matter. Like you have to say something to someone. If people really care for you, they really love you, they really have your best interests at heart. They want to know the truth. They want to know and they can help you, right? You don't have to be alone in doing this. I mean, there's these, you could think it's so you called it your stupid shit, right?
Right.
Which but it could be some dumb thing that you think is completely
irrelevant.
No, it could be something you in your mind that's overwhelming you. But when you say it to someone else and they hear you and they tell you you're okay or give you that pass, it helps, right? And that's the important thing. Is I mean, we've been pushing that for a year now. It's absolutely you're like the perfect poster child of it. Maybe you need to get you a tattoo there. It's like be there. I mean, you're a perfect example. Like your peer group has been there for you. Obviously, your parents, your friends, your wife, and then you have to be resilient to keep fighting for it and you can get through the darkness. You can get through getting off the couch.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have, those days, they feel like they're going to drag, and like those days feel super long and you feel like you're on that couch for 30 hours opposed to 8 hours or 12 hours. But there's always going to be a tomorrow, like choose to make that tomorrow better than it was yesterday and try and find ways to make it better. Don't just wake up expecting it to be better. Get off your ass and go make it happen. And whether it be talking to somebody or going to work or going to the gym or playing paintball, go do something and just help yourself.
Good words. Good words. I don't want to sound like so. I think your dad is. I want your dad to get more antsy here.
Was he already? I thought he was coming up with.
No, we don't know. We can't see what he's doing right now. But let's get to the old turkey, as he called it. Right.
You never know what Jeff's doing.
Yeah, Jeff is like a wild card there.
He's a wild man.
I thought that was your brother there. He's like emojiing it up.
No, my brother's name is Daywalker.
Oh wow!
Because he's got red hair. So Daywalker, yeah.
So we'll get into our second favorite featured whiskey for your dad, Jeff. This is for you. He has his glass ready. So we're gonna go back in time, as he called. What do you say, the old turkey? I feel like it's not that old, but it actually is. But so obviously you can see on here we're going to go with tonight's second featured whiskey. If you haven't already seen the post, is Wild Turkey Forgiven Batch 303. He said try that old turkey. That's it right there. So as we talked about before, Wild Turkey is located in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. The Wild Turkey brand is said to have risen after Austin Nichols took a bunch of warehouse samples on a actual turkey hunt. After the turkey hunt, all of his friends said, we got to have more of that wild turkey. So that's how the supposed name came about. So in 1942, they started bottling Wild Turkey. If you don't know, Wild Turkey is home to Hall of Fame master distiller Jimmy Russell, who has been at Wild Turkey for over 65 years and actually is the longest tenured master distiller in the world. He's also joined now by his son Eddie and then his grandson Bruce, who's now the whole Russell family's in there. The distillery and Wild Turkey brand were purchased, like many other American whiskey companies, by Pernod Ricard in 1980. And in 2019, the Campari Group acquired Wild Turkey and the distillery brand. Wild Turkey Forgiven was first released in 2013. So I guess it is kind of old. 2013. How old were you in 2013?
Jesus. 10. So.
God damn, I'm old.
22.
I am old, so it is kind of old. And it's kind of interesting. It was supposedly a mistake that happened where some original batch of bourbon was tainted with rye, Kentucky rye. It was a careless mistake by the Wild Turkey crew, the distillation crew. So the first release was in 2013. This one is actually the later one. This is actually batch 303. I think the original batch was 302, but this is actually a 91 proof, so it's around the same proof you had before.
Okay.
It's non-age stated, and this mash bill is a blend of actually 78% of a 6-year Kentucky straight bourbon and a 22% of a 4-year-old Kentucky straight rye.
Okay.
So depending on how you have this, a lot of people either like it or they don't. it's kind of very unusual for the Wild Turkey brand to do this. I absolutely think it's pretty cool. I thought we'd bring it out there because I knew Jeff would love the Old Turkey stuff. We kind of saw it coming, but we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, man.
You make your dad jealous that he can't have this. I think the guys in the background want to try some of this too.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Cheers, Dad.
You hand that to the.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He said mom's on as well.
Oh, hey, Mom.
So your dad's looking at your mom like he said you're his favorite. They're right now probably sipping wine. And so Jeff, what kind of whiskey you drink right now? Since you're in here talking, Daywalker said Jeff is wild. Look at that. I love it. I love the family interaction. This is almost like you guys.
I'm telling you, man, we're all super close, dude. I am very blessed to have the family I do.
So let's talk about your new family. You're newly married, right?
I am, yeah. As of May 5th.
Oh, you almost forgot. You should do like I do, is just get a tattoo. You have a tattoo that you never forget that.
Right, I should.
So,
maybe something on my wrist or
then you can never forget
small.
It.
Yeah.
So is she listening now?
I sent her the link. I don't know. She might not have an account, so I don't know if she can post a comment or something. But
she's listening, probably.
She'll
figure it out now.
Yeah.
So you guys dated for a long time before?
Yeah, we did.
So what took you so long? You said you were being a pussy not to ask her out. Did you?
Yeah.
The same thing about
yeah.
Is that the same thing about marrying, or what? What was the?
No, we actually got pretty screwed. So we found this place. It was a place called La Scala in Dublin, and this was like right when COVID kicked off. But we found them, and we wanted them to be like our wedding venue. And when we signed up with them, they're like, "Hey, you have a 100% refund. Anything COVID related happens." Oh, excuse me. And we're like, "All right, cool." And then I think it was the day of the taste testing, my wife got either a call or an email saying like, "Hey, we got to cancel. Like the chef's not going to be there." And then the day after, we got something saying they're closing down permanently. And so we're like, okay, that's cool. And we call and try to get our money back. And the reason why they closed was the owner passed away, but he passed away from COVID. So I was like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's a COVID related thing. Can we get our money back? And we never did.
No.
So we just postponed it from there. And then she finally found a place in Gatlinburg and was like, "Hey, you want to do this out of state thing?" I was like, "Yeah, it looks really cool." And it was kind of like a blessing in disguise that La Scala got shut down because we had the perfect wedding. We had the perfect amount of people. It was just kind of like a nice little getaway, kind of treat it like a vacation. And
I think, is that her, Tony? Is that?
Oh yeah, hey,
she said that I'm here.
Yeah,
we were gonna get you, Tony. We had to get through some other stuff. We're there now. So it turned into the dream wedding, though, Tennessee.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if you've ever been to Gatlinburg, but there's just a lot of shit to do. I mean, it's gonna probably get pretty pricey just because it's very touristy. But yeah, I wasn't bored a day there, and the wedding was at this old like rustic mill, out in the nature and stuff, and all the pictures were super pretty, and it was a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Look at that! You're loving it. You're like a good place. You like. It's great. I love how she's on there now too. She says you're doing awesome. So,
she's a sweetheart.
So we got to talk about your hobbies now. You alluded to some of them.
Okay.
So back to high school though. We're gonna go back in time.
Yeah.
So you were a skateboarder back then. Any other sports you played back then or no?
Skateboarding was more. I think I did it up until like freshman year, sophomore year. But my brother and I were super into skateboarding. We skateboarded all the time. And then soccer was the big sport I played. I never played for the school team, but there was a bunch of club teams. I played a lot of indoor soccer, outdoor soccer. And that was also one of the things, like bringing it back to the thing where I'm never going to fail a PT test again, was like I joined a soccer league again after I gotten back. And so I used that, was playing twice a week.
So what event did you fail in the PT test?
It was I think it was the sit-ups. No, it was the run. I failed the run. And it was something stupid by like 8 or 10 seconds. But literally from that point on, I was like, dude, I'm not I'm never doing that again. And I smoked every test from there on out because it was the shittiest fucking feeling seeing everybody else get to fly home, and now I'm red passed for the weekend.
I just got
RuneScape, yeah, RuneScape.
So you have to talk about that now. That's your brother.
Yep, that's my brother. So RuneScape is a video game. It's very, like knights and dragons, but that was also our like middle school was in high school, and even now, not as much now, but it was very centered around video games. Like especially that close group of friends, my brother, and
I've never heard of that game. I don't
know. Nate, have you heard of it?
Oh man!
Oh, these guys are flashing back to high school. I'm like, what are we talking about here? No, but I mean, I think, but we've talked about this before. It's interesting with video games. To me, it's a different time. Like video games for me were, 2 or 3 of your friends sit in the same room. They all read over together. Only 2 people who play. Sometimes only one person can play. That was the worst when you went over to someone's house who had the one player game and you're watching them play and you're like, and then you want to play. They're like, no, it's mine. And you're just like, fuck you, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go do something else. But so it is cool to see where they've it's brought together. It's brought together people. But I also don't like it because honestly, it's again. It gets away from bringing people together, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like to.
I could see that. Yeah.
Everything under the same roof, everyone's together. But it is cool to watch my sons. When their panic mode is like, I got to get downstairs because my friends are going on to play. I think that's that's
which
cool
we didn't do. So I think I grew up in like the best time, like where you had the best of both worlds, really. Like video games were kind of at a height, but also we were doing a bunch of shit outside and outdoorsy and stuff. So it was like you had the best of both worlds.
Jeff
I was reading my dad's comment. The nieces.
They killed it.
The nieces, yeah. The one's real funny. She reminds me of like a little John Daly. I did say she, but yeah. She's got
she's got a mullet. She's smoking cigarettes and hitting bombs off the teeth.
Yep. Dude.
And pounding Diet Coke.
She's super cute and funny, man. Dude. 2 maybe? I think Chloe's 2. Almost 2 maybe.
2 years old and you're getting John Daly references.
But she's got like this white mullet and she's always frowning with these big eyebrows she has and like kind of mean mugging and sizing people up.
I don't know if she's gonna appreciate that down the road to being that her.
Yeah, maybe not.
Her uncle referred to as John Daly. That's great. No. But the mullet, the John Daly had some classic mullets going.
He did.
He's still like such. I mean, in the world of golf, he's still like one of the most fun people when you see him come on there and do things. He's just.
But I feel like I never heard of him like years ago, and now he's like a huge staple, at least in like the internet world. He's like everywhere.
Well, I mean, he was like unbelievable. I mean, he still is. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. I mean,
I never really knew how good he was.
Yeah, I mean, still today, what he's doing, like, it's pretty unbelievable. What he's a guy who doesn't do neither. I don't think he practices or anything. He just does what the other wants to do and goes out and plays. Yeah, like there's that clip of like like he's drinking a beer on the tee. And he's like, "What's the course record?" or whatever, and like he just, I mean, he lives his life. He's
so nonchalant about it.
Hey, but again, I mean, it's funny to hear that, like how things change because he's actually a really good golfer. I mean, he is a good golfer now, but he's just not.
Yeah.
He's not in the mainstream name anymore. So you talked about big thing is video games and not movies and video and shows, right? You like watching TV.
Yeah, movies definitely back in the day were a huge thing. I mean, like on our birthday, as kids, we get like some money and our parents would take us shopping. So I'd always want to go buy like a few DVDs and stuff. And, so movies were huge. And then like shows, especially like now, like I'm off for a few weeks.
What's your favorite
TV show?
TV series right now?
Of all time or right now?
All time. Ooh.
Oh, God.
All time for us.
All time. It's got to be between Breaking Bad and Sons of Anarchy, I think.
Good choices.
I think.
Yeah. I didn't like how Sons of Anarchy ended, though.
I didn't either. I liked how Breaking Bad ended. I thought that was badass. But Sons of Anarchy could have done better.
I mean, but those are two classic two classic TV series because I think you get like that character connection to everybody.
Right. Like I got to put Game of Thrones in there too. I forgot about that.
But they all had shitty endings. You're picking on every series had shitty endings. Like there's not a good. I think any of the good ones they go too long. They go too long. Like,
or they have like some kick-ass season, but then you can never like amount the hype to that season that was so badass. So then like the last season's always going to be like, oh dude, that sucked.
So we're talking Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your favorite character, Walt or Jesse, and why?
Oh,
I'm a Walt guy.
You're a Walt guy.
I fucking hate Jesse.
I feel like I'm 0 for 2, bud, because I like seltzers and I like Jesse.
Okay, but I'm just saying, sorry. You go 0 for 3. Your dad's not
pretty
getting that
soon,
table.
yeah.
No.
I don't know. I feel like Jesse he was always the underdog, and then I feel like he's always getting his dick kicked into the dirt, and he seldomly had times to shine. And then when he did, you're like, all right, man, good for you. See, I look at it differently. I look at I felt like he had so many outs, right? Like Walt was doing, like Walter, like don't get me wrong, like Walt's an awful guy, the series, but right.
You look at like, would I do that for my family? But then you begin to see that it's more of narcissism and power.
Yeah, like he wants to do the best.
But I felt like he gave Jesse so many outs to get away from it, and Jesse never could kick his own struggles,
his own habits. And
I'm happy that he made it through, but I just feel like. I guess I really don't hate Jesse. I mean, I like Walt better. Like, I mean, if I'm pulling for anybody, I want Walt to.
Walt's a good guy. I think I'm more.
That's what I love. Is somehow that series made you think that everybody that
he's still like
Walter White is a good guy. Yeah, but no, it's funny. People are pulling for him. Like the person I hate the most in the show though is his wife.
Yeah, I can't. That's
the one I think everybody's like.
You know who she reminds me of?
Not John Daly or your niece.
No, she reminds me of William Dafoe. Like the guy that played Green Goblin, But they have like the same like bone structure in the face, kind of.
I gotta watch.
I don't know, man. Just looking side by side.
You have some very interesting bringing like analogy, like comparisons to people. Like your 2-year-old niece looks like John Daly. I can't remember the actress's name.
I'm telling you, man, Chloe.
Was it
Chloe? Yeah, Chloe and Ava. And then I have another Ava on my wife's brother had a daughter named Ava as well, or has a daughter named Ava as well.
That's crazy.
2 Avas.
So favorite movie then?
Ooh.
No, before we get the movies, like what's your favorite current series? I think it's kind of slacking right now.
Favorite current TV show?
Yeah.
It hasn't came back yet, but I will say House of Dragon. I think it's called House of Dragons or House of the Dragon, like the Game of Thrones spinoff.
I haven't seen that.
It was good. It started out super good, so I think it'll be pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, that's. I feel like it's hard now
I'm into like fantasy and dragons and knights and all that shit. So it's kind of like made for my.
We are 0 for 3 because I hate.
Yeah, I figured it was coming. I'll leave. Sci-fi stuff. I'm gonna head out now.
And sci-fi stuff like that. Those are my like. I like Game of Thrones except for when all of a sudden the dragons came into it and all the crazy shit. But no, but that was another good. I didn't watch that series at all. But now I'm into like Lincoln Lawyer. Have you seen that? It's on Netflix. It's kind of a cheesy. I'm into lawyer stuff. I don't know why.
The movie Lincoln Lawyer?
No, there's a series out.
Oh no, I haven't seen it. I've seen the movie
it's pretty interesting. It's kind of over the top. I like a lot until I talk to Chad and then he just ruins my whole vibe on what a real lawyer is like. It's not like any TV show you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually starting to watch Suits. You ever seen that?
I haven't. I've heard of it.
I'm big. It's not a lawyer movie. I don't know why. Man. There's no dragons in it. There's no.
It'd be better with dragons.
It probably might be. Yeah, it might be. Everything's better with dragons, right?
It is. Yeah, it's a fact.
So, any dragon Legos going on?
No, I don't have any. I don't even know if they make any good sets with dragon Legos.
So you talked about your Lego collection.
The majority of it's Star Wars.
So that's your
Star Wars Legos. Yeah, that's my itch.
So what's the best Star Wars movie in your mind?
Best Star Wars movie?
God, I remember you're 0 for 3 already.
I know.
So I don't know what's going to happen with this.
I'd have to say episode 4, so A New Hope. Like the one where Luke's not a Jedi yet, and he's just starting his journey. For me, that was my favorite, I would say.
The New Hope.
It was like the very first one they ever made.
Why do you make it 4? It was 1 then. That was the first. See,
that's how they did it, though.
Oh, my Lord. That's what we know. Is that the first one though? Okay,
Yeah.
I just had to ask Chad. He's down there for old people. I agree.
Yeah, so they did
Okay,
4,
good.
5, 6, then they did 1, 2, 3, and then they did 7, 8,
You guys are
9.
just confusing us old people, man.
Yeah.
Like you should have just said the original Star Wars. Just because all the original ones are better. 4, 5, 6, right? Those are the first 3.
They are, yeah. So I would say 4 and 5 are the best, first and second.
6 was
But
what?
then
Ewok was
episode
6?
3, episode 6 is the one with the Ewoks.
Ewoks were kind of cool back in the day. Come on.
I wasn't a big Ewok guy.
Dude, I mean, those are real people in there. I mean, we're not CGI in this, man.
Good for them. Like, I'm glad they had their moment, but I couldn't get by.
The old school Star Wars shit was the bomb because have you not seen that's all real stuff, man. That's not like,
Yeah, I mean, it was, it was cool, but
you don't appreciate the Ewoks running around.
Never was an Ewok guy.
The Ewoks were kind of creepy, though. I mean, but there's the.
Yeah, they're like.
You're right, though. I'm giving you a hard time. The third one was not the best.
Well, no, yeah, the 6. So I was saying episode.
Whatever it is, I can't even know the episode numbers.
Episode 3, I would say, is probably my third favorite. Episode 3
of the newer stuff. What's your favorites of the newer stuff
for Star Wars? It's not any of the episodes. So like episode 1, 6, blah blah. But the movie called Rogue One was pretty damn good.
I like that one. That was actually pretty good.
The shows are okay. Like Mandalorian was good, but it's always kind of like the same premise. You get this task, you go do this thing, and then you're done. And then the next episode is the same thing.
But I like, was it Jon Favreau that's bringing it back though? He's done a pretty good job. I like the Obi-Wan. Wasn't Obi-Wan the
Obi-Wan was okay? Was good.
I haven't watched the new. There's another one I haven't watched yet, but
the Ahsoka series.
But the Mandalorian's great though. I mean,
it was good. I'm not saying it's bad, but
I just think it's funny how Grogu has become like the most famous thing of that, right? It's so funny to watch.
By far, yeah, Baby Yoda. Everybody's calling him Baby Yoda. And
I mean, I got a Lego that my son is still trying to put together for like 2 years. Maybe we'll bring that down. You can finish it for me.
Yeah, I'll get it.
I don't even know if he's done with it or not, but that's crazy. But well, hey, I want to thank you again for coming on. Thank you. Very powerful, episode. I'm kind of upset that we didn't have you on the radar before. I blame Nate for that over there. But again, thank you for coming in on short notice. But most importantly, thank you for your honesty throughout the episode. It's what we as veterans need more of, is honesty of how we're feeling, and you should be proud of yourself for the honesty, and then all your friends and family listening, you should be super proud of this guy for his ability to open up and share how he's doing, not only his family but also his wife now. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so candid and open. Right now you're welcome. And we're gonna honor a veteran who made a bad decision and took his life. So tonight we're gonna honor U.S. Army Sergeant Major Bob Dalton, 52 years old. Bob took his life on April 27th, 2015 in Oregon City, Oregon. Bob was born to his parents, Walter and Tricia Dalton, on December 7th, 1962 in Germany. Bob served in the United States Army for over 26 years. He was a decorated soldier and veteran of Qatar, Afghanistan, Bosnia, and Iraq, Somalia, and Kuwait. Bob was a recipient of the Bronze Star among many of his other military honors and retired at the rank of Sergeant Major. Upon retirement from the military, Bob moved to Oregon and worked as a plant engineer for Kroger Dairy Plant in Portland until his death. Bob married his love of his life, Connie, in November 2007. Bob was known for his inherent eagerness to help others. He was an avid motorcyclist, loved traveling with his wife, and was a huge fan of the Portland Trailblazers and Dallas Cowboys. Bob inherited his love of beaches from his wife, Connie, and they spent many hours there together. Bob is survived by his wife, Connie, sons Robert, Kyle, Christopher, Zachary, daughters Brittany and Jessica, grandsons Cole and William. And again, if you or someone you know is considering suicide, please contact the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255 or chat online now at veteranscrisishotline.net/chat. So again, thank you for coming on. And I promised you, I promised you a quote.
The car mechanic.
A car mechanic quote, and I found one. So
nice.
We're gonna pull that up. That'll be the quote we ended at. So it's actually from Roger Staubach.
Okay.
You know who that is?
I do not.
Oh my God.
Oh, for 4, huh?
He's a former. And it says at a car dealership, the person who sells the car is the hero and also gets the commission. But if the mechanics don't service that car well, the customer won't return.
Very true.
So Roger Staubach was a former naval officer and also the star quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll bring that to the end. Episode 37 again. Thank you, Kevin, for coming on. Thank you, brother. Buddy. And we'll send that sample to your dad.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Vile family for all their interaction tonight, and we will see you all in a couple weeks.
All right, buddy.
Take care.